Imagine you've just eaten a birthday cake at your nephew's party. Everyone is laughing, candles are out, and the moment is warm and simple. But you're running blood glucose calculations in your head. You're watching the clock. You're calculating insulin. And when you smile, part of you is somewhere else entirely. Managing, monitoring, calculating, not living. Just managing. That is what living with diabetes actually looks like. And if you've never experienced it, you probably don't fully understand why millions of people with this condition quietly struggle in ways that have nothing to do with blood sugar and everything to do with the mind. Here's something that most people, including a lot of doctors, don't fully appreciate. There is a specific psychological experience that is unique to diabetes. Researchers call it diabetes distress, and it is not the same as depression, even though they can look remarkably similar from the outside. Dr. William Polonsky, a psychologist at the University of California, San Diego, and founder of the Behavioral Diabetes Institute, has spent decades untangling exactly this confusion. His work found that a significant portion of people who screen positive for depression on standard clinical tools are not actually experiencing clinical depression at all. What they're experiencing is something more specific, an overwhelming, persistent emotional weight that comes directly from the burden of managing a condition that never takes a day off. Think about what that burden actually involves. Every single day, you have to make dozens of decisions: what to eat, when to test, how much to move, how much stress you can afford to feel, because stress itself raises your blood sugar. There's no pause button. There's no sick day from being diabetic. Research published in Frontiers in Clinical Diabetes and Healthcare confirms that people with both type 1 and type 2 diabetes are about twice as likely to develop clinical depression compared to the general population. But even that statistic misses something important, because it lumps together two very different experiences that need very different responses. Antidepressants can help treat depression. They don't fix the feeling that you're failing at a relentless, invisible job that no one else can see. And that phrase, failing at diabetes, is where the real psychological damage tends to live, because there's a subtle but devastating shift that happens in a lot of people's minds after diagnosis. It stops being, "I'm struggling with a heart condition," and starts becoming, "I'm someone who can't manage their health." The condition becomes an identity. The missed readings, the out-of-range glucose levels, the moments of burnout when you just can't face the routine anymore. They stop feeling like problems to solve and start feeling like evidence of who you are. That internal shift from behavior to identity is where the suffering compounds. You're not just tired of managing diabetes. You're ashamed of being someone who struggles with it. And shame is far harder to treat than fatigue. Research published in Scientific Reports in 2024 found that psychological resilience plays a mediating role between diabetes distress and depression, meaning it is literally the thing that determines whether high distress tips over into a diagnostic disorder. People who can bounce back, reframe, and maintain a sense of self that isn't entirely defined by their condition are significantly more protected from that slide. That's not a platitude. That's a measurable biological finding. So what does that mean for you? Practically, there's one small shift worth trying this week. When you notice the inner voice that says, "I'm failing at this," stop and ask, is this really about who I am, or is this about what I'm managing? Not because positivity fixes blood sugar. It doesn't. But the way you narrate your relationship with your condition directly affects how reliably you can care for yourself. A person who sees themselves as broken will treat the routine differently than someone who sees themselves as someone carrying a hard weight with imperfect grace on some days and real skill on others. The 2018 Diabetes 360 report found that 1/3 of people with diabetes are hesitant to tell others about their condition, and 15% have experienced direct discrimination because of it. So many people are carrying this silently, performing wellness for the world while quietly exhausted on the inside. I want to ask you something, honestly. If you have diabetes, or love someone who does, when was the last time the conversation went deeper than medication and meals? Because the psychology of this condition is real, it matters, and it is dramatically undertreated. That's not a weakness. That's just what it means to live inside a body that demands more management than most. The people who talk about it, honestly, without performance, are almost always the ones who do better over time. So what would it take for you to be one of them? Let me know in the comments. I read more than you think. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, click the subscribe button and do not miss the next one. See you in the next video.